folks, Trisha Curtis, CEO of PetroNerds and host of the PetroNerds podcast. I am live in Butte, Montana. I'm not sure if you can see those awesome mountains behind me. This is my first trip to Butte. I came for the Montana Tech Symposium. I opened yesterday. I opened the symposium with a keynote speech. It was actually a fireside chat with Todd Hoffman. It was awesome. I was really impressed with the students, with the faculty, with the level of engagement and the questions. So I spent a lot of time talking about China, a lot of time talking about tariffs, and really what's going on within geopolitics, how this all relates back to oil prices now, and what's going on within the economy. And so right now it is Friday, April 11th. And I just want to remind folks, today we are at $60 a barrel. I think, yesterday and days before, I saw $56 a barrel just a few nights ago. That's changed. We are only 1 week, just a week and a couple days into the tariffs right now. So they started on April 2nd. It's now April 11th. So 1 week in, and earlier this week, there was a reprieve put. There was a 90-day pause put on most folks, on most countries. The tariffs on China were actually increased. Everyone else, there was a 90-day pause put on, and then a 10% across the board. So what's happening right now is a lot of uncertainty and a lot of fear and consternation in the market. And so when I spent a lot of time talking about tariffs and China within this talk, and I've been talking to a lot of folks about this in general, these tariffs were always about China. It's the fact that the U.S. has so much exposure to China, and the fact that China could, they could turn the knob on this anytime they wanted to. So that's really serious. And so forcing the decoupling, it's extremely painful economically speaking. And clearly the stock market and a lot of pundits were not ready for it. But what's also not being well talked about within the stock market a little bit, and yet more so yesterday, is Chris Wright is over in the Middle East. So he's in the Middle East visiting with folks. But yesterday there was there was an actual cabinet meeting, and then I went through a lot of the executive orders. I still haven't been through all of them, but there were a slug of energy executive orders released this week, which were very impressive. A lot of them actually had to do with coal and electricity and bringing reliable power generation back, and actually looking at the states and seeing where the Trump administration could actually look at states and help push them, the forced mandates that a lot of these states like California and Colorado have on shoving coal out, enforcing renewables into the grid, and raising electricity costs for consumers. A lot of this is addressed within executive orders. So there's a lot happening on energy, I think, significantly on coal. The fact of trying to keep coal as a base load, not decommissioning any power generation further, and actually allowing for folks to actually mine for coal, because we have a de facto moratorium for mining for coal in the U.S. That is really significant when we put this in context of competing with China, and the fact that the majority of China's grid, the 9,500 terawatt hours, or 1/3 of the world's power generation, is largely powered by coal. And that's important because it's extremely reliable and it's extremely cheap. And so if we want to compete with China, we have to use our natural gas, so we need to backstop that with coal, so we keep that reliable baseload power, and we have cheap electricity prices for consumers and for businesses and folks who actually want to manufacture in the U.S. or incentivize them to manufacture. So with that, folks, it's been awesome to be here in Butte, Montana. I can't wait to come back. I'll talk to you soon, folks. Please listen to the latest PetroNerds podcast. This is an incredible talk that I gave to Dapple earlier this year. It gives you context for everything happening in January of this year. I updated with a fresh update that I dropped on April 2nd of last week. I'll be lots in the queue. This talk I gave at Montana Tech will also be a forthcoming podcast. And I am headed to Lubbock, Texas next week to go back to Texas Tech to speak there, which will also be a forthcoming podcast. So thank you so much for listening, folks. Talk to you soon. Bye.